pressure along some fault lines. Do you have any reason to believe that what occurred in the Gulf of Mexico was just such an operation? And do you have any more information on what you think might be going on there now in the Gulf?
I don't have any information that tells me they were trying to release pressure. They could have been. I've certainly seen them do it when I was down in Australia on the western coast there. There was I was handed a classified document at the time, communication from the United States through our defense areas there, which showed that Perth, Australia, was subject to about an 8-point something plus earthquake if they didn't relieve stress north of it along a fault line that was there at the time. So what they did is they sent a roving mobile teams of geologists with explosives, and they blasted pressure areas that were tributary, smaller fault lines leading into that. And over a period of several weeks, they relieved enough stress that the major earthquake did not wipe out the city of Perth. There were some smaller quakes, but nothing to worry anybody. Now, New Madrid is another thing. It does go down into the Gulf of Mexico under the sediment basin there. If they were blasting and trying to relieve it, I think we would have seen some seismic detection of it, because we're talking about, things that might have been a 1.5 to 2 point Richter if they were making significant blasts in that area. It would have been dangerous, and I don't think, from the geologists I've talked to with BP, I've talked with part of the cleanup team, they're more concerned with keeping that area quiet and stable in the Gulf than they are trying to relieve pressure of the New Madrid. Because of 100 years of oil extraction and gas extraction, and not every well backflooding with seawater to fill the voids they left after they took the oil and gas out, it has left a very porous and in some cases cavernous substructure under the Gulf of Mexico, which one day, if it gets a good shake, will collapse and produce tsunamis all around the Gulf of Mexico coastlines, everywhere. So I don't think that they're trying to relieve any stress there at the moment. They're probably crossing their fingers and hoping this current leak, which has occurred only in the last 16 hours. They've discovered it's been out there for 2 or 3 days. They're hoping that leak is something that is transient and not a sign of a fracture in the subformations. There is pressure down there, and it did get compromised when when the horizon exploded. So, no, I don't think so. I've looked at Arkansas and at Oklahoma, and I thought, okay, they're saying that they're drilling for gas. If you look at the earthquakes, they're widespread across Greenbrier, where these small quakes have been recorded, and they might have been trying to relieve stress along the Guy Fault that way. Certainly, the small earthquakes, which is really small earthquakes, but a lot of them, which does make me think that could be a pattern of stress relief. But other than that, I've not seen anything that indicates to me that they're doing stress relief anywhere else.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. I'm always ever hopeful that people, a lot of us will make it through to the other side in terms of the Earth changes. At what point in the cycle do you expect the Earth changes to stabilize? Is that dependent on Planet X returning on its path away from us? What would account for a return to stabilization for the Earth in your theory? Can you speculate at all?
Well, a couple of things. On Planet X, I'm still trying to get confirmation of its existence, at least close to the Earth, or where we can see it. I've not been able to, my satisfaction, get any reports that have seen it or detected it in the civilian complex. I do know, this new gravitational theory that I put together, my theory has it's an algebraic formula progression, which does predict the exact orbits, the mean orbits of every planet in our solar system, plus 6 orbits that aren't filled. And one of those orbits, one predicted exactly mathematically, is at 250 AUs from the Sun. That's its mean orbit. And the orbital time for a planet occupying that mean orbit would be 3,600 years, plus or minus 12 years. Now, that's very close to what Sitchin's figures show, and I don't mean to just support everything Sitchin says, but there is an orbit there, and if there is a planet there, it could very well be eccentric, like Pluto is, and have an inclined orbit to the ecliptic that's greater than 23, 24, 25 degrees, and and when it comes in close around the sun, it could dive into our orbital system somewhere around Mars, the asteroid belt, somewhere in that area, go around the sun and come back out through the same belt, and the whole transit time would only be 11 years, roughly figured on calculations I've got at the moment. Now that may be in progress now, but I haven't seen it. So Planet X, I think, in my opinion, is kind of off the table as far as the major drama at the moment to Earth's geophysical changes. I could be way off. I mean, as I say, I'm having astronomer friends in the Southern Hemisphere looking for it. And if it is there and it does come into play, its orbit, its containment orbit, the thing that organizes the atoms of Planet X, could cause ripples in Earth's orbit, Mars, Venus, Mercury, all of us, even the asteroid belt, and it could release things up from a stable orbit they're in now, or fairly stable in the asteroid belt, for instance, that become Earth-threatening near-Earth objects that could cause massive damage to the planet when they hit. These changes, I think, we're going to see an end to over the next 10 to 15 years. The major part of them, I think, will pass once we get through this next period, finish this solar cycle and a couple of other factors, and I think that we'll see it start to stabilize again. And the reason I say that is if there is a rogue planet out there, which NASA's been looking for because there's something perturbing, we've known it for years, perturbing the orbit of Neptune and Uranus. It's a little bobble in their orbit. There's something out there doing that. And if it is moving, and it is moving in close to the Earth in a long period, very elliptical orbiting, then that could contribute to all this, but it can only contribute about 11 years maximum, in my opinion, because that's the only time it would be close enough to kind of directly disturb the gravitational planet, this planet, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, all that, as it passes through. So that's why I'm saying 10 to 15 years, and things should stabilize again.
Thanks, Stan.
All right.
Athena, you have a question for Stan.
Yes, Stan. Since its discovery in December 2010, more observers and amateur astronomers are now beginning to theorize that comet Elenin may in fact be our dreaded brown dwarf star, or one of its planets. The star that goes by many names, Wormwood, the Destroyer, Planet X. Elenin does not move as a comet would. Rather, its movements seem rather planetary, and its alignments with the Earth and our Sun over the past 12 months have coincidentally accompanied some of the more massive earthquakes that we have experienced during this time frame. What's your take on Elenin? Do you really believe that it is actually a comet?
Well, as far as orbits of things, especially eccentric orbits in our solar system, you have several types of orbits that they describe, and the astronomers and physicists will look at a planet's position, take readings over several days, months, years, to calculate the orbit. They'll calculate whether it's a parabolic orbit, a hyperbolic orbit, an elliptical orbit, and if what is supposed to be a comet, Elenin, is behaving not like we thought it would as far as a comet, because they calculated its orbit is more planetary or elliptical, almost semicircular, but elliptical in this case, then it could be the cause of the problems that we're anticipating. I am aware of the coincident alignments between the Sun, the Earth, and its position in the past 3 or 4 years, and what is coming. It's future alignments, all within that 10 to 15 year period now. So, yes, I think it bears watching. I think that officially, behind the scenes, they may already have calculated its orbit, got enough readings to know exactly what its orbit is, and the fact that it's called a comet instead of a planet or a rogue moon to a brown dwarf or whatever, is being hidden simply because it is easier for people to deal with a comet and not be panicked. They can see it in the skies, they can register it and whatever, and deal with it. The majority of stars we've seen out in the galaxy, or in fact in the universe, the majority of stars are binary stars. It would be unusual if our Sun, in other words, didn't have a binary star out there somewhere out beyond the Oort cloud that we're mutually orbiting. The containment field theory that I've got does allow for that quite happily, and this Elenin may be connected to that. I just think it bears close watch. At this point, I think I don't have enough information personally to say one way or the other whether it is a comet or whether it is a moon or a planet orbiting a brown dwarf. I certainly think we should see evidence of a brown dwarf's gravitational field acting on the sun fairly quickly if it's that close, though.
Stan, while some acknowledge that a brown dwarf star could theoretically be in our cosmic neighborhood and could theoretically pose difficulties for Earth at some point in the future, the general consensus seems to be that if such an object were currently approaching our inner solar system, let's say 6 AUs or less from Earth, it would be observable by most, if not all, astronomers at this point. Can you please address the issue of a brown dwarf's visibility and tell us whether you believe that an object of this nature would unquestionably be visible by now if it were relatively near Earth? Thank you.
I don't think it would be unquestionably visible if it were coming in like that. A brown dwarf, depending upon the stage of its nuclear chemistry, would be visible in the infrared radiation bands and could possibly be seen and detected way out there by an infrared telescope, which don't grow on trees for amateur astronomers, for sure. The other effects, not visual effects, but the perturbation effects in orbits of the inner planets would also be visible, detectable, as opposed to the brown dwarf star itself. The wake of it, if you wish, in the orbits and gravitational fields of the inner planets and the sun itself. Now, 6 AUs is a fairly significant distance, but certainly if it got any closer than that, you would start to see matter streamers kind of ripping off of our sun toward the brown dwarf or vice versa, whatever, probably sun toward the brown dwarf. That would be visible. So its albedo, its reflective index, it depends on a number of things at the stages of its reaction. So I think that something that massive would be detectable either visually or gravitational perturbation-wise in orbits of inner planets. That's the best I can answer that question. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Stan. Party Pop, did you have another question?
There has been a spate of second sun sightings all over the world in the past month, some of which have been convincingly captured on video. Many are clearly optical illusions, sundogs or lens flares, but a few have been rather compelling. My first question: can you please tell us your opinion on whether you believe that these videos are most likely the product of optical illusions, or whether it is possible that some have actually been able to catch glimpses of our binary star? And my second question, I'll wait for you to answer that question, and then I'll move on to my follow-up.
Okay. In my opinion, the dual sun phenomenon that we've been seeing on the internet and these videos in Korea and in China, which are the most compelling, are in essence optical illusions. One of the giveaways is that the second sun is almost the same size as the real sun, but it's less intense. And in the bus pictures where they were showing, I think it was in Korea when they were filming, the bus pictures are a secondary reflection as the light came into behind the camera that was filming it, bounced off of that window and projected onto the window in front of the camera. In China, it was, again, an optical illusion over the horizon, similar type things. These have been seen many times before in the past, before we even had fancy cameras and telescopes. So I don't think they're saying a second sun. It's just an optical illusion. Question number 2.
Yes, my second question. If some of these, if they are an optical illusion, I'm not sure if my second question is even relevant. Because my second question was, if some of these sightings are truly of our binary stars, can you please explain how and why it would be visible at certain times and locations by some, but not by all?
Well, I think that has been answered by my answer to the first question.
Exactly. So